What up? Me again. And today, I want to talk about the best undrafted player in NBA history. So, as per usual, with these types of questions, I've compiled a list of undrafted players who I believe deserve to be in this conversation. So, let's get into it. Starting out with the best, usually. But we'll see as the list goes on, so stay tuned. But at the top of the list, I have Ben Wallace, which for some of you newer NBA fans, you probably have no idea who the Ben Wallace is. But Ben Wallace was a menace, an absolute menace. He was getting so many rebounds. He was an insane defensive presence throughout the entirety of his career. And it is not something to scoff at because we really don't see players that are this prolific on the defensive end anymore. It's very uncommon to see a player like this. And Ben Wallace was a NBA champion with the Detroit Pistons in 2004. He was a four-time All-Star. 3 times he was named to the NBA All-Second Team or All-NBA Second Team, 2 times to the All-NBA Third Team. He was a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year award winner, which is tied with Rudy Gobert and Dikembe Mutombo for the most all-time. 5 times First Team All-Defense, 1 time All-Defensive Second Team, and played 1,088 career games. Pretty good for an undrafted player. Pretty good. And he was doing all of these things playing center at only 6'8" or 6'9". So he was really like pound for pound the best defensive player in the league. Like obviously Dikembe Mutombo and Rudy Gobert were, 7-footers. Or are 7-footers, I should say. And Ben Wallace didn't give a shit about that. It didn't matter that he was smaller than a lot of the guys he was going up against. He gave his all every single night, and he's honestly one of my favorite players to this day. Like a rebound, hated to see Ben Wallace coming. He was just a board freak. Was just getting rebounds at a crazy rate. Like he had a couple years where he was averaging 14, 15 rebounds a game, and he wasn't really an offensive threat. I don't know if he ever averaged double-digit points in a season. If he did, it might have been one season out of, many that he played in. But he didn't care about scoring the ball, which is what I respect. I respect that about him and Dennis Rodman. But Ben Wallace was not the same character as Dennis Rodman. So Ben Wallace honestly might be the best player on this list. But let's keep going because this is a subjective discussion, and I will keep it that way. Fred VanVleet, also an NBA champion with the 2019 Toronto Raptors when Kawhi Leonard hit one of the craziest shots of all time in the playoff series against the Philadelphia 76ers to send the Raptors to the finals. Fred VanVleet is also a 1-time All-Star. He's averaging about 15 points per game currently for his career and has played in 490 games. So he has potential to be, one of the best undrafted players of all time if he continues to improve. I mean, if he winds up averaging 25 points per game for a season or two, that really is going to throw him into the conversation. But with Ben Wallace being as prolific as he was on defense, I don't know how likely it is that Fred VanVleet can dethrone him. But it's possible. It's possible. And he's still in the league, so he's got a chance. Udonis Haslem, I mean, he's definitely not the best undrafted player of all time, but I feel like he has to be on this list because he's a 3-time champion, the Miami Heat all-time leading rebounder, and he made all rookie second team, which is impressive for an undrafted, player to make an all rookie team, which the Heat have done a lot, by the way. The Heat have had a really good eye for undrafted free agents, and then they get them on the roster and they wind up having amazing rookie seasons, which it's one thing to find an undrafted player and put them in the league and give them that opportunity and see them grow over time. It's even more extraordinary to see a team pick up an undrafted player and that undrafted player immediately gets slotted into their rotation and is, playing good minutes and making the best out of it. So the Heat have been very good at that. I assume down the line, if there is going to be someone that dethrones Ben Wallace, it's probably going to be someone that the Miami Heat pick up, because they've just been on a roll these past couple of years, which there's a couple more players on this list that they have, signed as undrafted free agents. So, but I'll get to that. I'm not rushing ahead, so don't push me. Earl Boinkins. If you guys do not know Earl Boinkins, go check this man out, because he is the second shortest player in NBA history, standing at 5'5", and he was just a shifty motherfucker, and was fit that same profile as Muggsy Bogues, because he kind of was limited by his height, playing against much taller players all the time, and he was a pest on defense, making the opposing team's guards work to get the ball up the court, pressing up on them, doing all that, and he was a good passer. He was a really good assist guy. He had a pretty long NBA career. I think he played at least, I want to say 7-8 years. Might have been longer than that. Came out of Eastern Michigan, not really a big basketball school, at least back then. And he came in the 1998 draft, which was a, talented draft class. So, he probably would have gone undrafted in any class he went into, because he's 5'5". It's just teams are probably not going to draft you when you're that tall, unfortunately. Unless you're averaging 40 points a game in college, it's going to be hard for you to get picked. But Earl Boinkin's definitely an honorable mention. Austin Reeves, currently in the league. He has potential to really, turn his game up and, turn into a really good player. He is a pretty good player already, but he's not like a star. But, if it winds up being Austin Reeves' team in 2, 3, 4 years' time, because LeBron and AD are gone, he has the potential to become one of the better undrafted players of all time, for sure. Alex Caruso, also undrafted player that got picked up by the Lakers. He's no longer with the Lakers. Recently got traded to the Oklahoma City Thunder for Josh Giddey. But Alex Caruso is the real deal. Alex Caruso is the shit. You do not want to be matched up with this guy on defense. And he's, been on all defense first team. He's been on all defense second team. He's a really good player, and he fits his role very well. And he, scores when he needs to, passes when he needs to. He does what he has to do. And I appreciate the type of player that he is on the court. And he really enjoys the role that he gets to play, and he's a really smart guy. If you listen to interviews where he's kind of talking about, how he guards people and how he kind of reviews his matchups before going into games, he's very meticulous, and he really focuses a lot on the tiny details that help him, be a better defender, based on who he's going up against that night. So it's a very interesting, role that he plays, but it's a role that pretty much every team needs. So he's going to be a successful player for years to come in the league. Bruce Bowen, kind of like the Alex Caruso before Alex Caruso. Bruce Bowen was a lockdown defender, won multiple championships with the Spurs. I appreciate Bruce Bowen a lot too. A lot of what I just said about Alex Caruso stretches to Bruce Bowen as well. But I honestly think Alex Caruso has a higher likelihood to become, or go down as a better defender than Bruce Bowen was. Even though Bruce Bowen was clamps. He was clamps. He was not letting you get past him. He was getting in your face. And people want to say Bruce Bowen was a dirty player. Like, nah, like, f*** that. Like, he was not a dirty player. He was just defending hard. So, John Starks, next name on this list. Great player. Won Sixth Man of the Year in 1997. Was an All-Star in 1994. And made second team All-Defense in 1993. Most people know him for his time with the Knicks. He also spent some time in the CBA. But John Starks is good. He's definitely on the upper tier of this list, upper tier of undrafted players. Certainly a diamond in the rough. Next one we got is Naz Reid. Naz Reid also has great potential to be one of the better undrafted players in NBA history. Pretty much the only guy from Jelly Fam that made it to the NBA. If you guys don't know who Jelly Fam is or what Jelly Fam is, go look that shit up on YouTube, because you need to know how to jelly if you're a basketball player. And that's all I'm going to say. Next name, Jose Calderon. Jose Calderon is a beast. Filled his role extremely well. And I think he might still hold the record for free throw percentage in a season. I think he shot like 98% from the free throw line in a season. And he wasn't shooting like a crazy amount of free throws, but I think he shot like at least like 150. I think he shot like 150 and made like 145, which is pretty impeccable if you think about it. To only miss 5 free throws an entire season. So, Jose Calderon, definitely one of my favorite players. Had a long NBA career, and knew how to lead a team. Was a great floor general. Knew how to pass the ball. Made open shots. Role player, but great player. Be a star in your role. Next, we got Garrett Temple. Garrett Temple has had a very long NBA career. I honestly couldn't even tell you what team he's on now. He was on the Kings. He was on the Raptors for a little bit. Spent a lot of time on the Wizards, so I like Garrett Temple a lot. He's a big guard, like 6'5". Can run the point, can play the 2, can play the 3. Also a lockdown defender, clamps, all that shit. Great player, great role player, great vet to have on your team. I think that's why he's lasted in the league so long, is that he's just been around and he knows the ups and downs. He's been on winning teams. He's been on losing teams. He's really been through it all. I don't think he's won a championship, but he's seen a lot of stuff, and he plays the game the right way. He doesn't turn the ball over a ton, defends well, puts a lot of effort in on the court. Good guy, good teammate. That's what you want, especially in an undrafted free agent. Next, we got Kendrick Nunn, who I think I've spoken on Kendrick Nunn a little bit, but I thought Kendrick Nunn was going to be the next one. He was going to be that guy. And he played real good in the G League. Eventually, Miami Heat brought him up to the team, and he had a really good rookie season. He was a 25-year-old rookie. And I think he averaged 15 points a game as a rookie. As an undrafted rookie, scoring 15 a game, that's pretty incredible. And he kind of just went downhill from there. So I can't really say that Kendrick Nunn is even an honorable mention on the list at this point, because he's out of the league. So if he gets back into the league, then we have something to talk about. But he just kind of went downhill, and he really wasn't good with the Wizards. That was kind of the turning point for his career, was he got traded. I mean, he wasn't good on the Lakers either, but he got traded from the Lakers and then went to the Wizards and didn't play any better. And, now he's out of the league. So wishing him the best, but I don't think we're going to see Kendrick Nunn anytime soon back in the NBA. Matthew Dellavedova is the next name I got. Really good defender, and if you guys haven't seen it, look up J.R. Smith talking about Matthew Dellavedova and how hard it was for him to guard Steph Curry, because it's pretty funny. But Delly was a very big piece as to why the Cavs won that championship in 2016. And I don't think Dellavedova really got as much credit as he, should. I think looking back on it now, we can kind of give him a ton of credit, but at the time, people were like, oh, this is just some random player, he's not doing much. But, like, that's the thing is, you think NBA players that don't score a lot aren't doing much, but that's quite the opposite. Is that, sure, there are some where they might not be filling up the stat sheet, they're not getting a ton of assists, points, rebounds, what have you, but lockdown defense really doesn't pop up in the stat sheet, right? Unless you're looking at the opposing player. So if you look at his matchup and see, oh, they shot, 35%, they shot 30%, right? Like, then you're going to be like, okay, like, he did kind of do what he needs to do. But you need to kind of look at the stat sheet differently when you're looking at a player like Delly. But he's definitely an honorable mention. I don't think he competes with Ben Wallace or Fred VanVleet or, honestly, Alex Caruso. I definitely rank Alex Caruso over Matthew Dellavedova at this point in time. This is a good one, Brad Miller. A lot of people don't know who Brad Miller is. He was a 2-time All-Star. He went undrafted out of Purdue in the 1998 draft. And he had a 14-year-long NBA career. So, he was a starter for a long time, put up, a double-double average for a season. Can't remember what season it was, but put up like 15 and 10. Next year, put up like 14 or 16 and, 9. Very solid big man. Was able to shoot the 3-ball a little bit. So he kind of was a more versatile big man before it was really like a thing. And, I think a lot of people coming up probably looked up to Brad Miller, and that's probably why the game looks the way it does now. But to be a 2-time All-Star after going undrafted, that's very impressive. So props to B. Miller time. David Wesley is the last name I have on this list, which also probably a lot of people don't know David Wesley. I think he came into the league in like 92, or it might have been the 80s. I honestly don't remember. I think it was like late 80s, but you guys can tell me in the comments. But David Wesley averaged 12.5 points per game for his career. His best season was probably with the Celtics in 1997. He averaged 16.8 points per game, 2.2 steals per game, and 7.3 assists per game in 74 games. So the fact that he wasn't named an All-Star ever is pretty crazy to me, but sometimes that just happens when there's a lot of talent in a given year or people really outperform, their previous year, certain things happen. But David Wesley was fairly consistent, played for a couple of teams, and was a very solid player. Did a bunch of things very well, didn't necessarily do one specific thing great, but you could really slot him into any rotation, and he was going to make a positive impact. So David Wesley's probably up there in the top 3 as well, honestly. Maybe top 5 of the undrafted players all time. But I'm going to say, like I led with, Ben Wallace is the best undrafted player of all time. I think second, just because he's no longer in the league, his career is finished. I think second, I would go with Brad Miller, B. Miller time, my guy. And third, I'd probably go with David Wesley, but I'm gonna say, actually, no, David Wesley should not be third. I would put John Starks third, David Wesley fourth, and then based on actual skill set, I'm gonna put Alex Caruso fifth. But based on accolades, it should probably be Bruce Bowen. But like I said, I think Alex Caruso is going to surpass Bruce Bowen in terms of how good of a defender he can be. But we'll see. Time will tell. Time has all the answers. Most of the time. So, let me know what you guys think. As you know, I love talking about basketball. So please leave comments. Let me know who you think is the best undrafted player of all time. Let me know if I missed some names that you think I should have put on this list. And let's discuss. This is a dialogue on basketball. So I'll catch you guys with the next one. Peace.